Hey everyone, stop using mental health as a crutch. A few years ago on a Contra Gentiles podcast, I triggered many of our early listeners when I objected to the medicalization of mental states. It was more of a discussion of ontology. I was simply saying that I reject the idea that certain mental states are a disease the same way that, flu or kind of viral instances within the body is a disease. And I view that, and I still do today, as being ontologically false. And I think much of my arguments have been supported in recent publications in the world of psychology. However, I don't really want to discuss the ontology today. Even though I'm probably still going to trigger many people. They're going to say, well, you're not a psychologist, you can't talk about this, blah, blah, blah. You know, the same typical, attacks that one gets if they start talking about this topic. But what I really want to talk about is whether it matters or not in the end of the day. Does it really matter that if you accept the medicalization of mental states as being true, in the end, does it matter on one's behavior? Because the fact of the matter is that many people use mental states, many people use the claims within the mental health industry as a crutch or as an excuse to not act onto the world. So for this episode, let's say I grant all of their propositions. I grant that all of the arguments that the modernity kind of brings in about mental states is true. Right, let's say that I would grant that depression is an actual mental disease. That is not merely a state of mind that all of us experience, but that it is a unique chronic disease that you have no control over. That anxiety is a unique chronic disease that you have no control over. That has not really been brought about from external factors, but is some kind of chemical misbalance in your brain. Let's say I grant all of these claims of modernity about mental health. In the end, it really doesn't change anything. Because if you are depressed, really, who cares? If you are anxious, who cares? If you suffer from mental disease chronically that is not triggered by any outside of realities, who really gives a shit? It just doesn't matter. Shit still needs to get done. Life still goes on. And this is, I think, a very hard lesson that many people don't want to listen to. Because it doesn't matter how you feel. The reality is that you're still existing in the world. And so either the case would be that you just end it all by killing yourself, or just start acting onto the world, because you cannot change. If these claims are true, if these claims of mental health are true, then there's nothing you could do to really change that. It becomes a self-obsession, the self-obsession about how one feels. And it doesn't help. It doesn't help anything. It helps no one. It won't help your depression. In fact, many studies have shown that the more you fester into it, the more depressed you become. It won't help your anxiety. In fact, the more you fester on to the anxiety, you become more anxious. So really you have to stop focusing on how you feel and stop focusing on wanting to be happy and just start acting, just start doing shit. Start acting constantly against the way one feels. Because again, if it is true that these are simply chemical misbalances, if it is true that it's chronic, that was not brought about anything that you can actually change, then why even bother thinking about it? The truth of the matter is that depression will never be rid in your life, for we are all fallen men. You will never achieve true happiness in this lifetime, so why care about such nonsense? The more you try to seek your own happiness, the more you try to seek to repair these mental states, the more you fall into despair. The goal ought not to be to seek yourself, but it's about acting in accordance with excellence. For excellence itself is God. And as Christ said, if any man has a mind to come my way, let him renounce the self. and take up his cross daily and follow me. He who tries to save himself will lose it. It's the man who loses his life for my sake who will save it. The more that the contemporary world tells you to think about yourself, about your own mental health, about focusing on the self constantly, the more it is sucking you into its self-worshipping religion. The self-obsession of how you feel chronically or whether it is on a daily basis, is a part of the self-worshipping culture, part of the self-worshipping religion of the contemporary world. So you must deny yourself, as St. Alphonsus Maria de Liguori said, we must detach ourselves from everything, and especially from ourselves, by continually thwarting our self-love. So if you don't feel like waking up early, for example, just get up. Just get up early anyways. If you don't feel like doing push-ups or pull-ups at 6 in the morning, for example, just fucking get up and do it. Start willfully making yourself suffer. Inflict pain and suffering out of your own volition. Now, a great time to do this, obviously, is during Lent, but you could start this anytime. You could start changing this part of your life in any moment given to you and granted to you by God. Because nothing in this life really is worth doing that is absent from suffering. When you begin to deny yourself your own self, it is the only way to detach yourself from your own depression, from your own anxiety, from your own worshiping of self mental care. The problem here is that too many contemporary men uses mental health as an excuse to not act, to not attempt to achieve excellence. He uses it as people in the medieval period always talk about in terms of the devil made me do it. It's that same attitude as if it is beyond your own control. Now, how you feel may be, again, in this case, I'm just granting all of the claims that the modernity gives about mental health. Let's say that it is beyond your control how you feel. It doesn't change that you still have control over how you act. Nothing can control your own actions beyond your own will. So if you can't control the way you feel, and let's say you never can and never will, then why even fucking worry about it? Simply deny yourself your own self-worshipping, your own mental health care, and just start acting into the world. Whether it is, if you're a young man still living at home, whether it is just one day picking up and making breakfast or dinner for your mom or your siblings. Finding things outside of yourself to begin to act onto the world. If there is somebody who you're trying to woo, there's an attractive female and you think she's out of your league and you look yourself in the mirror and you be like, I wouldn't fuck me, then make yourself fuckable. Start working out. Deny yourself your own self and start acting in accordance with excellence. And this is something that I think is very hard for some people to listen to because we've been told since a young age that it is not your fault. There's nothing you can do about it, that you're just born this way, that you have a chemical misbalance, that if anybody tells you otherwise, they're not being compassionate. No, fuck that. You could overcome things by simply acting onto the world and stop festering and thinking about your own self. All right, that's the show for today, at least for this segment. The members will stick around for the rest of the show. And for the non-members, please subscribe on our Patreon or on our website, contragentiles.com. And then you could catch a full-length episode, right? Thank you. Bye.